Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. We record these interviews so potential buyers have more information about the seller and the business to help them make a buying decision. Today we'll be talking about an Amazon FBA business for sale, and I have the seller with me today. So welcome to the show, John. How are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. I'm really looking forward to talking about your business. It's a very interesting one. Lots of different factors there. And just before we dive in, let me just give our listeners a very brief summary. So today's business is an Amazon FBA and e-commerce one, and it was created in October 2017 in the home and pet care niches. The average monthly revenue for the business is $44,454, and it makes an average of $11,142 per month in net profit. The assets included in the sale: listing transfers for 3 SKUs, domains and all of the site's contents and files, a trademark, an email list with 439 subscribers stored on Klaviyo, and social media accounts. Please note that inventory isn't normally included in the listing price, and further details can be provided to active unlockers. And also please note that this is a listing transfer and the Seller Central account will not be included in the sale. You can head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for the listing 52293 to learn more about the business. And if you want to start your due diligence, please remember to unlock the listing first. That's a very general overview of the business, John, but let's dig into a bit about your background. Can you tell me about how you got started with online businesses? Is this your first run, or have you been doing this for a while?
Well, this is my first run at an online business. So my past, I owned a business that I sold. It was a brick and mortar business that I sold 5 years ago. And my dream was always to have an online business. So once I sold my brick and mortar business, I started doing research and talking to people and just trying to figure out what to do next. And Amazon FBA came up, and that's where I ended up diving in. So it took me, about 6 months to a year to kind of figure out what direction I wanted to go with that and exactly what products I wanted to invest in. And it was all basically a self-learning process and talking to other people. And I did get an Amazon coach to kind of help me along the way, and just started building it little bit by little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can you share a bit more about your learning process? What were some of the communities or resources, and if you're comfortable sharing, who was the coach that helped you get up to scratch?
Yeah, so I am involved in the My Silent Team Facebook group. I mean, they're primarily not private label, which is what I decided to go into, but because it's such a big group, I connected with a couple people that were doing private label and just got involved with them, and just, again, asking them what they're doing, getting advice. And they do have a coaching program, and they directed me towards a coach that has obviously been through private label and sold his business. So it was very good to be able to bounce ideas off of him. Yeah, and his name was Abe Ortolani. And just an excellent wealth of information. And he helped me get it up and running and gave me a very good tactical advice as I built it along, and just gave me somebody to rely on as I built it up.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. So how did you come up with the idea to start this business in particular?
Well, first of all, I love outdoors, nature. So that kind of right away put me into this category, because that's what I enjoy myself. So that right away kind of narrowed things down to me. And then what I was really looking for is I wanted more reoccurring products. So I was looking for like food of some sort for animals. And I knew that was a very competitive business. So I knew I didn't really want to start there. So what I was looking at is, okay, how can I do dispensers that would then dispense that food? And then that would kind of direct me towards the niche that I ended up going into. And I ended up not picking the main niche because, again, I knew that it was very competitive. So I picked an offshoot of what that niche was, and it ended up working very well because I didn't go necessarily down the most competitive stage. And I have yet to actually release the food part of it because the other side of it has gone so well, and I'm still uncertain and sure if that would be too competitive to get into now. But I definitely think it's a growth possibility in the future if the community side of it was built up enough.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So it sounds like you managed to really find a bit of a blue ocean for yourself there, because you were mentioning the original space you were looking at might have been a bit too crowded. So you sort of found almost like a sub niche that fit the bill and fit your criteria.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Why would you say that FBA is a great business model for people who are interested in getting into online businesses?
Well, I just love the FBA model because it can be almost completely automated. I've built this business up with these 3 SKUs enough to where a lot of the heavy lifting is done, and you can, with pretty minimal time, just monitor things and keep things ranked at a halfway decent pace. And, FBA takes care of the rest. So a lot of the customer service, obviously shipping all your products out. And I've got the system down, having spent over almost 3 years on it, like I've got the system down to where it is fairly automated. And I think that's the beauty of the FBA system. And you can obviously expand into doing more with a website and social media, but I think with FBA as your center and your core, it gives you a very good base to work off of.
Obviously sounds like you've, along the way as you've skilled up and you scaled this business, you've managed to grow it to a considerable size. But our listeners will be wondering, why you're selling the business right now instead of staying with it or growing it?
Yeah, excellent question. There's 2 reasons, really. Number one, I've just really felt compelled to release a more domestic product and work with domestic suppliers. And I've really been convicted over the last year with regards to that. And so I've switched let's say my greater Amazon business into doing more wholesale and working with more US based suppliers and helping them kind of go into the Amazon business. So I really recognized that over the last year, even though I felt that when I first opened it up, it was the advice that I had was to get products overseas and bring them in. And while it's still working very well, it's something that I feel more compelled to work domestically. That would be the number one thing I would say. The second thing I would say is, as I've grown it strictly on Amazon FBA, while I've got the website there, I've got some of the social media stuff in place, I just recognized that I was not the person to grow that side of it, to really take this business to the next level. And yes, I could hire somebody in to do that, but with my skill set, I really want to be more focused on the Amazon FBA side of it. And I feel like somebody that wants to take this business and grow it to the next level, I think I'm not the person necessarily suited for that. So I really feel like it's gone bigger than what I ever thought it would from the very beginning. So I feel like it's time for me to step aside and, let somebody else that has a bigger interest grow it to what I think could actually be grown into a bigger business.
Yeah, that sounds great. And it sounds like, from what you're saying, in the hands of the right person with the right skill set, they'll be able to take the business even further.
Correct. And I do believe that, yes.
Yeah, that's great. So what we'll do, let's dig into a bit more about the business, just so we understand how it looks like running it on a day-to-day business and how it works, really. What would you say, as you were scaling and growing the business, what were some of the things that you learned that you think you might be able to apply to future businesses?
Well, for future businesses, what I learned very early on with this business is kind of let the market speak to you. So when I first came out with my first product, it was a bit of too much like what was already out there. And it was a bit of a struggle to start out with because, like I said, it wasn't differentiated enough from what was already out there. And I ended up coming out with an alternative version of this that was much smaller. And I honestly didn't think that the market was going to accept it as much. But what I found out is that market liked that much better than what I had originally come out. And so I think a lot of you can use software and stuff to try to find what works, but sometimes you have to either talk to your market and get feedback of what they're really looking for, or just through trial and error, you can figure out what works. And through trial and error with my second product and then my third product, I got honed in a little bit more about what the market was looking for. So if I go and build another brand, or if I work with somebody else to do it, I really understand the whole process of finding a good product to start out with again. And that's really what I've learned from what I've done with this.
Yeah, that sounds great. On the other hand, what did you try that didn't really give you the ROI you were hoping for?
I tried advertising way too much. That's what I learned. And that's, again, if you don't really have the right product out in front, all the advertising in the world is not necessarily going to work as best. So I think, well, I used and fell back on advertising a lot to try to rank products. I probably would have not done that so much, and it would have obviously saved me money, but it would have got me into the right products quicker, as opposed to just relying on, PPC or advertising to try to rank initial products.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I guess speaking of advertising, the majority of the traffic comes from paid advertising, or is there an organic search aspect to it as well?
Now it's almost all virtually organic search. There are times when I do turn on PPC if my rank might go down a little bit, or that's something that I monitor on a daily basis. But almost virtually all my sales come from organic search, especially it depends on the time of the year. Like this is a busy time of year for us. And so then really there's just a lot of organic traffic. And so very little PPC used at that point. But yes, if I do turn on PPC during the slower months, then that's what I would rely on at that point.
Mm-hmm. So what do you currently do in terms of marketing right now then?
Nothing. My products are ranked good. I'm getting in the amount of sales that I shoot for. And so if I'm ranked good and, obviously depending on what the competition is doing, I do know Amazon PPC right now. So it's all organic sales right now.
Great stuff. So that sounds like the marketing side of things are pretty much handled by itself. So I guess what else do you do in terms of the day-to-day management? Can you sort of describe the type of work that you do to maintain the business?
Yeah, I spend about an hour just review things. So that's the daily stuff is I'll look at my main keywords and where I'm ranking on those keywords. I'll look at where my competition is at. Are they moving prices around? Where my sales are at. Obviously, I use software for that to keep track of that. So that is the main key stuff that I do on a daily basis. And it typically takes me, I'll probably do, half hour to 45 minutes in the morning and then keep track of it near the end of the day as well, just to keep up with everything. And then the next biggest thing is obviously just tracking inventory. I do use a warehouse right now. So I send in inventory when it gets low to get that sent in. So I know I'm always keeping up with the inventory. And then obviously once my inventory in the warehouse gets low, then I'm ordering a new load to come in and make sure I'm managing that and corresponding with my suppliers. So that is the main task that I do. There is some minor customer service things that we take care of, but like I say, it's very minor. Once or twice a week, I get contacted from a customer, either, a replacement part, a new product, and I always follow up with them and just make sure that they're very happy. And if it's a broken product or anything like that, then I'll just simply ship them a new one. But there's probably 1 to 2 at the most per week that I follow up with on that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I noticed from your listing as well that the inventory gets sent to a 3PL warehouse in California before it's then forwarded onto FBA fulfillment centers.
Yes, that is correct. And that was just based off of, I used to get everything sent into Amazon, and now I'm ordering more product where it's just easier to get it sent into the warehouse, store it there, and it saves money based off of what I was getting charged to have it all in at the Amazon FBA. But the warehouse is located very near where typically where I send into Amazon FBA. So when I order stuff, it goes into the Los Angeles port. It simply goes right into the warehouse, which is right near there. And then once it's done at the warehouse, it simply goes right into Amazon FBA. So it's a very, I would say, streamlined process at this point.
Cool. That's really good to know then. Let's talk about the opportunities. I mean, if you did stay with the business, John, how would you try to grow it?
Yeah, great question. There's a whole website side of it that I have done very little with. I think there's huge opportunity there. I really feel like that would be the next step that I would invest in right away if I was to keep it. I have a group of people that are buyers of the product that is on Facebook. So I have a group there. Honestly, I'm not involved with that enough anymore to make it worthwhile. I would invest more time into that. I think there's huge opportunity there. And then along with other social media, I've opened up like an Instagram account and Pinterest. Both of those, with this being a very visual product, there's huge opportunity for that as well. I just had to admit, like I was not very good at that. Yet I know that there's huge potential for that as well. Beyond that, like I said, I originally got into this to provide a reoccurring food item that could be used along with the products that I sell. Again, I think there's huge potential for that. I think it's competitive, but I think if you get a group of, I would say, solid fans, either in the Facebook group or on social media, I think there's a potential to sell the food item to them. And I think there's also ability to expand into other markets. I haven't touched the Canadian market yet. I think there's potential there. And I think there's potential for foreign markets as well if somebody would want to expand into that as well.
Great stuff. So it definitely sounds like there's lots of avenues of growth here. I mean, what would you say are some of the biggest risks with the business that a buyer should be aware of?
Well, right now, and I know there's risks, like I would say right now, and risks that are potential down the road. Right now, there's lots of shipping delays, and I think that's a potential for inventory problems. We dealt with that last year. Obviously, that last year was very much different with things being shut down, but I think good inventory management is a must right now because there's definitely potential issues with that. If the product runs out right away, your rank goes down, and then all of a sudden you have to then increase your PPC advertising and you have to advertise more. So that's definitely a risk going forward. I think over the last year with COVID, this niche has become very popular. And I think the other thing that the new buyer would have to look out for is it's become more competitive because I think the niche has grown in volume. Now, with my products, they're obviously been ranking well over the year and they've definitely got a head start with the review count. So there are more and more people coming into this area, but I think with the review count being as high as it is, I think that does set you apart. And I think there is a certain amount of brand recognition there that would make it more difficult for competition to come along. But I think in every niche, there's competition, but I definitely think that would be something that would have to be watched out for.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's really good to know. Last three questions for me here, John. How much support are you offering buyers?
I spent 3 years working on this business, so I want to see it succeed. So I'm more than willing to help out where I can. I've offered to, definitely have email support and support for 30 days. If a buyer was interested, I would more than likely stay on as, a paid consultant if they wanted more advice in some of the products that I've written down as potentials. But obviously I know that doesn't work out for everybody, but I would definitely be more than willing to offer that help because I think there is potential in this moving forward and have spent 3 years learning a lot about it and would be more than willing to, and certainly want to see the new buyers succeed in a very big way. So definitely offer 30 days of support and help as things transition. And if there's a need, we can definitely work and be willing to work something out in the future if it was desired.
That's really good to hear. Are you willing to commit to a non-compete?
I am. I absolutely will commit to a non-compete.
Great. And are you open to negotiating something like an earn-out, seller financing?
Well, my desire is to get all the money up front. That would be my number one desire. If I'm obviously open to negotiations, and if we can work out something that's best for both parties, I would be at least open to an offer like that. But my number one objective would be a cash out up front.
That's good to know. Last question from me then. If you put yourself in the shoes of a buyer, why do you think this is a business worth buying?
I think there's potential for growth. As I said already, there's lots of different areas of growth. I don't think I'm necessarily the person to take it to that level, but somebody looking into this and has the ability to work more of the social side of it and the website side of it, I think would bring lots of potential for growth for this business. And I think if the inventory management can be done where there's plenty of inventory on, I think there's a lot of other markets that this product would very clearly go into. And I think looking at the growth side of it, I think there's tons of potential that is left in this business.
Fantastic. Is there anything you'd like to share that you think I might have missed?
No, I think you clearly covered everything and did a very good job. So I appreciate it.
That's great, John. You've been a pleasure to have, and we hope that your business gets sold in the very near future to the right buyer.
Good. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 52293. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. And once you've unlocked the listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.